Hi everyone, Alan Schimmel, DevOps.com here for our DevOps TV video channel here at DevOps Enterprise Summit 2016 Day 1. And I'm very happy to be joined by my friend Steve Brodie, CEO of Electric Cloud, founding sponsor. Is that the right term, Steve?
Founding sponsor is correct.
Founding sponsor of the DevOps Enterprise Summit. Steve, welcome.
Thank you very much, Alan. Good to be here.
Thank you. So Steve, before we jump into Electric Cloud's news announced today, let's talk a little bit about what it means to be the founding sponsor of DevOps Enterprise Summit. I'm familiar with the history, but our audience may not be.
Yeah.
How did Electric Cloud sort of get involved here as the founding sponsor?
Sure. Yeah, it was a fascinating story. I mean, we used to have our own user conference, and at our user conference back in 2013, Gene Kim was a speaker, and then after Gene spoke, he saw some of our enterprises that were presenting on some of their DevOps transformation. You know, companies like GE, companies like Qualcomm, companies like HP, and he said, "Hey, I've been looking to do an enterprise event," and so we agreed. We said, "Let's create an industry event. We'll we'll sort of tailor our user conference, turn it into an industry event. We'll bring in new vendors and let's open it up." And that was sort of the genesis of it. And we both sort of saw the opportunity and the need for an industry event targeting enterprises looking to do DevOps transformation.
Great.
So we've been doing that for 3 years. This is third time doing it. So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, you know what? Thank you, because it's really great for the industry. I think it's been personally great for me.
Yeah.
But all seriousness, all kidding aside, it's important for DevOps and the DevOps movement. And having a company like Electric Cloud to work with Gene and the IT Revolutions folks, I think has really accelerated what could have taken a lot longer to bring together this sort of critical mass.
Yeah, and we had done our event for many, many years, so we'd been used to doing events, managing it, organizing it. So we help with a lot of the logistics, coordination.
Absolutely, I know you do.
It's been great.
I will tell you, your people help me a ton.
Great.
There's a lot that goes on into doing these videos.
Glad to hear it.
So thank you. But let's turn to Electric Cloud's announcement from today. Steve, you guys announced a new version of your flagship product, Electric Flow.
Correct.
And why don't you give our audience a little bit, what do you think are the biggest features or biggest parts of this new release?
So we announced Electric Flow 7.1. It is in invite-only beta as of today.
Okay.
And it's going to be GA in December. And with this release, we've provided a lot of advances in our microservices and container support. And so what we're seeing is a number of enterprises out there are starting to adopt microservices and containers, and there's some unique needs that they have. One is, if you kind of look at an enterprise, they've got some legacy applications. They've got things that are built with monolithic architectures. They've got new things that they're starting to do with microservices and container, microservice only. And then they've got applications where it's really a hybrid model, where they're refactoring the application, and it's going to be a mix of traditional, and then over time, some pieces move to microservices and containers. And so we felt it was important to kind of deliver a solution where, from an application release automation perspective, you could treat containers and microservices, model them as a first-class citizen, and start orchestrating the containers through the pipeline on their own, or if you've got a hybrid app, sort of the traditional components. The other interesting thing, talking to enterprises, is if you look at the runtime container orchestration market, it's in flux. I mean, there's a lot of players out there, unclear what's going to happen, and each of the platforms is different. And so what we've done is we've provided an abstraction layer on top of that. And so what you can do is, we've got plugin providers. So if you want to deploy to Kubernetes, if you want to deploy to Amazon, you want to deploy to Docker Swarm, we can do that, and we mask all the specifics. It's just a point and click. So we avoid vendor lock-in. You can actually, in theory, use different environments in pre-prod and prod if for cost reasons you want to move. And you don't have to understand any of the specifics under the covers.
Yeah. Steve, I was at Puppet Conference a couple weeks ago, and it really drove home for me how big and more importantly, how quickly microservices and containerization is exerting its influence into this market. We've been around a long time. We both remember when virtualization VMware came about, and it just seems like containers have again internet time, right? Is continuing to crunch. The gravity's pulling it in. The singularity, and I mean it's that quick, right? Where this move to containers and microservices is just bam. But you bring up an interesting thing, and so many people, when we think of containers, think of Docker. And Docker, we've done our own surveys. 90% of our users are using Docker for their container.
Right.
But they're not that
The runtime
container
orchestration, the cluster
and all of
management.
that
Yeah.
is all over the place.
Exactly.
There's Kubernetes, there's Mezio, there's Amazon's own thing. Azure now is working with Docker, but
Exactly.
Microsoft's going to have their thing. This idea of putting an abstraction layer and having one tool on top of that that will let you
Don't have to worry about it.
brilliant. Brilliant.
We handle all that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I mean, Anders speaks about this. Our CTO, Anders Wahlgren, speaks about it more eloquently. But I think, the rise of microservices is so well suited to DevOps, right?
Yes.
Kind of decomposing the application to the smaller set of services that are really intended to do one thing and do it well, very well-defined interface. And of course, containers are very well suited as the deployment model for that. Because again, one process, very low overhead from a deployment and a runtime perspective. So, I mean, it's just so ideally suited. And it's amazing. Enterprises are picking it up much more rapidly.
Even
than
like
SMBs.
VMware.
Yeah.
It really is, but it begs another question that I asked someone, and I don't mean to stump you with it,
No
but
worries.
what's next? Are containers the end of history as we know it? I mean, have we run to the end of the time? Has the singularity collapsed on itself? What can we do after, what comes after containers and microservices?
I think we're going to wait and see. I mean, I think right now, even just traditional, if you look at some of the Gartner stats, they say that application release automation is adopted by 10% of global enterprises today. It's going to be 50% by end of 2020. So you're looking at about 3 years, 40% are going to adopt it. And there's still a lot of people with these traditional architectures, and Target said today,
and it leaves 50% beyond that.
Right. And Target said today that they've just deployed their first container into production. So it's just starting. We're starting to talk to customers, but I think we're going to be in this transitionary mode. It's going to be kind of like cloud, I think. And so I think there's a lot of running room ahead, and we want to continue listening to our customers of where that's going. But I think there's so many other things. I think this whole move to shift left, and if you look at testing, it's going to move to more continuous automated testing, faster cycle times. You're going to see monitoring move earlier, so you can monitor and detect end user performance issues earlier. The other thing I think is, if you look at these orchestrated pipelines, orchestrating all these tools, you're going to collect so much data.
Right.
And I think one of the things that we're going to see is sort of big data meets DevOps, and start applying machine learning to that, and sort of understand trends, start doing a little bit more prediction, understanding bottlenecks, look at optimization opportunities, and present that up, and set things like policies saying, hey, let me reject this pipeline if something looks this pipeline run if something looks suspect. So I think there's a lot of innovation that's going to kind of happen here as we go. And I think even just enterprises adopting, when you start doing this at scale, we're working with a Fortune 25 bank. When you're doing this in one department, it's one thing. When you start scaling it up and you've got 5,000 applications running on 150,000 endpoints, tens of thousands of developers,
it's a different
how do
game.
you create a shared service that provides some commonality but allows each business unit to deploy? So I think that is where we're going to see a lot of the activity in the near term.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's going to be something around the corner, serverless computing and all this other stuff that's kind of coming down the road. And when enterprises start adopting it, we'll
that's what you
we'll
got to
jump in
do.
there.
That's what a good CEO is supposed to do, right?
Right,
Steve?
exactly.
Well, listen, congratulations on what looks like another smashing success of a DevOps Enterprise Summit. Best of luck with the new release of Electric Flow. And I know you guys have a ton of sessions that you're doing over the next 3 days. I was talking with one of your fellows right before this, who's doing something on idle in DevOps, which kind of, I was telling him 3 years ago, if you would have told me you were doing idle in DevOps, I would have stuck my finger down my throat.
People think they're at odds, but ITIL has to evolve.
Work. Well, I think it's evolve or die, and it's DevOps or die. For a lot of these organizations.
And so Chris Fulton will be talking about ITIL and DevOps,
exactly
and he'll be talking about the integration of Electric Flow and ServiceNow. We have customers looking for that. We recently integrated our solution with ServiceNow, and it's certified out there. So we're definitely seeing our customers are asking for this. We're working with them on this.
You got to give the customer what they want.
Precisely.
Absolutely. Steve Brodie, CEO of Electric Cloud, founding sponsor of DevOps Enterprise Summit. Thanks for joining us today on DevOps TV by DevOps.com.
Right. Always a pleasure, Alan.
Always a pleasure.
Have a great day.
This is Alan Schimmel for DevOps.com's DevOps TV.